Hi everyone, welcome to my first video. For those of you who don't know me, my name is Ashley. I've had an Etsy shop since 2013. I'm currently the owner of a Glowforge with a Thunder Nova 5130 coming next month. I design all of my products in Silhouette Studio. What's been most popular for me lately are the Let's Get Social QR code signs and QR code keychains. But one of the questions I get most often is how do you make a QR code? So today I'm going to show you how we generate a QR code on QRCodeMonkey.com, how I bring that into Silhouette Studio, trace it, and how we prepare it to engrave on the Glowforge. Your final product will look something like this, or we can make something like this, which is the beginning of the social sign. If you want to learn more, stay tuned. Before I go over how to make a QR code, it's important that I teach you what a QR code is and how helpful it can be to your business. So a QR code can be put on a keychain, a business card, a social media sign, a menu, basically any way to connect with your customer or consumer digitally. So the consumer or customer on their phone, they'll open up their camera app, hover over the QR code. That QR code will direct them to whatever payment platform you have it set up to go to, website, Instagram, any other type of social media. Basically anything that has a website you can use to create a QR code. So it's a great way, especially in these times, to connect with your customers and consumers digitally versus just handing them a business card that'll probably get tossed in the trash. If you haven't found a need to use a QR code yet, I really encourage you to watch the rest of this video. Learn more about it and see if it's something that you can integrate into your business in the future. Okay, now I'm going to show you guys how to create a QR code. Open up QRCodeMonkey.com. This is a free website that allows you to create a QR code from any URL. It does not expire and there's not a limit on scans. So you'll take your URL and paste it right into this section here. So if I want to make a QR code for Instagram, this is my Instagram page. I will take this URL, copy, and paste. And then down on this right-hand section here, you can just do create QR code. It's now generated the code. I'm going to download PNG. Once the code has been downloaded, I will select it, right-click, copy. And now I'm going to trace it into my design software. So I have Silhouette Studio here, and this is a new page. I'm going to do right click, paste, and there's my QR code. Now in order to engrave this QR code, you're going to want to trace the area. So on Silhouette Studio on this right hand side here, you'll click open the trace panel, select trace area, highlight, and then trace. You need to take off this original QR code, so I'll move that to the side and delete it, and now I have my single QR code here. You can make your QR code whatever size you need for your project, but I don't recommend going much smaller than 1 inch. Anything smaller than 1 inch could be more difficult to paint or difficult to scan, so that's just my recommendation. So one of the other questions I'm asked a lot is how do you trace a QR code that has the tiny dots? So Instagram within the app also has a QR code that you can use if you don't want to create your own. Venmo, Cash App, those are all codes that have tiny little dots and can be hard to trace in Silhouette. So let me show you how we're gonna do that on my phone. Okay, so within the Venmo app on the bottom left-hand corner, there is a scan button. So you'll click that and do Venmo me. And now here's your Venmo code. So all I'm gonna do is screenshot that on my cell phone. And now I've saved it as an image. I'm gonna send that image to my Dropbox to then pull it off and download it into Silhouette. Let's go over to Silhouette and I'll show you that step. Here is the screenshot QR code that we just completed. I have it pulled into Silhouette. We will do the same thing as we did before. So open trace panel, select trace panel, and then highlight. So I like to zoom in on these, especially with the small codes. What you're looking for is a good fill on all of these little dots here. So the way that you can accomplish that in Silhouette is by adjusting your threshold here. So if you were to lower your threshold, you won't see as much of a trace. If you were to increase your threshold, see how it gets really blurry. So what you're looking for is a clean, solid trace. I'll usually just increase it just slightly, about to 50%, and then select the trace button. And now when I pull this over, you can see my completed code here. A lot of people have asked me, how do you get rid of the middle part with the faces, since that doesn't really trace well? I'll show you how to do that next. When you have your traced code, you're gonna right click and do release compound path, and then you're just gonna delete out the middle here. So you'll click delete. When you do this, make sure you're not accidentally deleting any of the actual QR code, because then it won't scan. And then I will highlight all, right click, make compound path again, and now it's a single QR code. Personally, I don't like it when the middle doesn't have anything in it. What I'll do for that is trace the logo of the platform for that QR code. For this one, select trace area, it's Venmo, so we'll just trace that right there, trace, and then pull it over here. And I will adjust the size down so it fits perfectly. Select all, and then I hit this button right here to center it all together. Right click, make compound path. Personally, I like to make them black, and then you're done. One of the most important pieces is to make sure that your QR code is functioning properly before you even engrave it on your laser. Once you've traced it into your design program, take your cell phone, open your camera app, and just make sure that it traces correctly. If it doesn't, you know there is something wrong with the trace. If it does work, then proceed with engraving. And once you've engraved it and painted it, if it's not working at that point, then you know it was something with the engrave or the painting process, not the actual QR code. Now that our QR code is traced and our design is complete, we're ready to pull it over into the Glowforge software. So let me show you my settings when I get it into the program. Here's an uploaded social sign that I have. On my left-hand side, you'll see the different items I have in here that are indicated to cut, score, or engrave. So for the logo and any of my engraved portions, I do those before the cut. And to open up this field, you'll just click the box, go to engraved, and put it on draft. For a sign like this, you don't really need to do it on a SD graphic or HD graphic engrave. The draft graphic will work just as well, and it cuts your time in half. For this type of sign, it doesn't add a lot of value, and it's just gonna make your engrave time take longer. So my recommendation and what I do for all of my signs is engrave on draft. Each sign is going to take different amounts of time, but for a sign with 1 to 2 QR codes, it should only take about 10 minutes or so to engrave. If you have up to 4 QR codes, it's going to take like a 15-minute engrave time. So the more items you have on your sign, the longer it's going to take. When your engrave is complete, it's going to look something like this. You can see I have all of my engraved sections, including the QR codes. I also have some score lines here, but I'm gonna save that for another video. And now we're gonna go on to the painting portion. 2 things I use when painting engraved acrylic QR codes: acrylic paint and a foam brush. I don't use paint pens. I find that the paint pens will scratch off the masking, and you don't want that to happen because you don't want your paint to bleed. Pretty much any acrylic paint will work. I mostly use Americana. I've also used folk art. I wouldn't recommend using a matte paint, as that can be a little bit thicker and doesn't really go into the engraving as well as you would like it to. The way we're gonna do this is make sure that all of the paint really seeps in all the engraved sections. Once your sign has been engraved, painted, it's gonna look something like this. There should be good coverage of paint on all of the QR codes, and once it's 100% dry, then you can remove the masking. If you remove the masking too early, you're at risk for it to bleed onto the acrylic. When I remove my masking, I literally just rip it off here, Getting the masking off on the QR code is going to be the hardest part because there's so many small details. So what I use is a plastic razor blade to get the rest of this masking off. You can buy a plastic razor blade on Amazon. I also will link it in the description below, but it's a small blue handle. It comes with a bunch of little orange plastic blades that you can use as replacement parts. And then you'll just put this pretty flush with the acrylic because you don't want to scratch the acrylic. You only want it to take off the masking part. And I have apparently misplaced my plastic razor blade, so this will be interesting to show you this way. But you'll have your sign, your QR code, and you're literally just going to scrape it up. And now you have a perfectly clean QR code. Sometimes when you do this, the masking will get into the engrave sections. So one of the tips that I have for you on that is just brushing it out with a clean toothbrush to really clean out these engrave sections. I had a lot of fun creating my first video with you guys. I hope that you learned something today. If you liked this video, be sure to comment, like, and subscribe. I'll be offering a lot more tutorials on Glowforge, Silhouette Studio, how to run an Etsy business, and I have a Thunder Nova 5130 coming next month that I'm excited to share with you too. Thanks you guys, until next time.